Alright, let's dive into something that's been making headlines lately, the Philippine economy's growth in the second quarter. Now, before we get into the numbers, let me just say this: economic growth isn't just about percentages, it's about people, businesses, and the broader global context. So, when we hear that Q2 growth likely slowed to 2.8%, it's not just a statistic, it's a story about what's happening on the ground. And personally, I think this story is way more complex than it seems at first glance. Here's the hook: the Philippines, a country that's been on an upward trajectory for years, is now facing a slowdown. Why? Well, one thing that immediately stands out is inflation. We're talking about a 6.8% average inflation rate in the second quarter, up from just 1.4% a year ago. That's huge. And what many people don't realize is that this isn't just about numbers, it's about households cutting back on spending, businesses hesitating to invest, and overall economic activity taking a hit. If you take a step back and think about it, this isn't just a local issue, it's tied to global events like the Middle East crisis driving up fuel and food prices. It's a ripple effect, and the Philippines is feeling it hard. Now, let's talk about what this really suggests. In my opinion, the slowdown isn't just about inflation. It's also about confidence, or the lack thereof. Business confidence is down, and public infrastructure spending, which is usually a growth driver, has been sluggish. This raises a deeper question: how much of this is cyclical, and how much is structural? Are we looking at temporary headwinds, or is there something deeper going on? A detail I find fascinating is the drop in public construction activity for the fifth straight quarter. That's not just a blip, it's a trend. And it's not just about delays in projects, it's about the broader uncertainty that's making both public and private sectors cautious. What makes this really interesting is the contrast between sectors. On one hand, you've got manufacturing and exports holding up relatively well, especially in semiconductors and electronics. The AI boom is giving the Philippines a bit of a boost there, which is a silver lining. But on the other hand, agriculture and the jobs market are struggling. El Niño is looming, and that's a wild card that could hit food production and inflation even harder. From my perspective, this isn't just about balancing growth drivers, it's about managing risks in a way that doesn't leave anyone behind. Here's where it gets even more nuanced. Some economists are saying the government's full-year growth target of 3.5% to 4.5% is still achievable, but only if the second half sees a strong rebound. Personally, I think that's a big if. With global trade uncertainty, geopolitical tensions, and domestic challenges like minimum wage increases, it's not going to be easy. What this really suggests is that the Philippines is at a crossroads. It's not just about hitting a growth target, it's about building resilience in the face of multiple headwinds. So, what's the takeaway here? In my opinion, this slowdown isn't just a Philippine story, it's a global one. It's about how interconnected economies are, how quickly external shocks can hit home, and how domestic policies need to adapt in real time. One thing that immediately stands out is the need for a more dynamic approach to economic management. It's not enough to rely on traditional growth drivers. There needs to be a focus on innovation, diversification, and risk mitigation. If you take a step back and think about it, this isn't just about Q2 growth, it's about what the Philippines needs to do to stay competitive in the long run. And here's my closing thought: economic growth is never just about the numbers. It's about people's livelihoods, businesses' futures, and a country's ability to navigate uncertainty. The Philippines has shown resilience before, and I think it can do it again. But it's going to take more than just policy tweaks, it's going to take a mindset shift. What many people don't realize is that the real challenge isn't just recovering from a slowdown, it's building an economy that's prepared for whatever comes next. So, let me ask you this: what do you think the Philippines needs to focus on to not just bounce back, but to thrive in the future? Let's keep the conversation going in the comments.